The MCU's filled with amazing characters and lore, but sometimes a single cameo is enough to totally steal the show. Today, we're going to be showing you some of our favorite Marvel movie cameos. You might have missed some of them if you weren't paying close attention the first time around, but don't worry, we'll catch you up. You'll learn the two very different musicians who voiced parts of the Ravager ship and what Stan Lee's favorite cameo of all time was. Ragnarok. We could go on and on all day about what a great movie Thor Ragnarok was, but don't worry, we'll resist. Well, mostly. During one of the earliest scenes in the movie, we see the citizens of Asgard enjoying a play detailing the exploits of Thor and Loki. At first glance, it seems as though Odin himself is presiding over the festivities, but soon it's revealed that it's really Loki in disguise. So, who did Loki choose to play him in the performance? He got big-name actor Matt Damon to do so, of course. Does this count as a betrayal to his BFF Ben Affleck's role as DC Comics hero Batman? If so, that just makes the whole thing even better. But Damon isn't the only famous face to take note of in this piece of Asgardian theater. True thespians probably noticed Thor looks awfully familiar, and that's because he's played by Luke Hemsworth. Yes, that's one of Chris Hemsworth's brothers who's known for his work on the show Westworld. The theatrical version of Odin was played by actor Sam Neill, who was in the original Jurassic Park. Funnily enough, as we learned later on, another Jurassic Park alum was on set, since Jeff Goldblum played the part of the Grandmaster. Clever casting director. They clearly spared no expense on getting big-name stars in this movie. David Hasselhoff. Peter Quill is a great and in many ways relatable character. We've all wished for a cooler name and cooler parents for that matter. Peter's real dad, Ego, ranks right up there next to Thanos as one of the worst fathers in the MCU, but when he was a kid, he liked to imagine that someone much more down to earth was his dad. According to Peter, he would tell the kids at school that his real father was actor David Hasselhoff. When he revealed this during Guardians of the Galaxy, it made audiences realize he was capable of being sensitive and that he had awesome taste in movies. Then, in Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2, we meet Peter's real dad, who, again, is just terrible. Having a dad who's also a planet sounds good in theory, but in practice, it's not all it's cracked up to be. Not only did we see Peter overcome his foul father, but we also got to see a cameo for none other than David Hasselhoff. Some people say you should never meet your heroes, but we don't think that's true, as long as your hero isn't really your evil father who's trying to take over the universe. Still, this is definitely one of the best cameos in the MCU. Homecoming. This Spider-Man Homecoming cameo was not only awesome, but it proved that a Twitter hashtag can actually do some good in the world. Who knew? When Sony was looking to reboot the Spider-Man franchise, some fans thought there was nobody better suited for the role than Donald Glover. Hashtag Donald for Spider-Man was trending, but ultimately the role ended up going to Andrew Garfield. Considering that The Amazing Spider-Man 2 went on to become the lowest-grossing Spider-Man movie of all time, we're guessing Glover isn't losing sleep over it. Although he didn't land the role he was originally hoping for, the campaign caught the attention of director John Watts. He loved the idea of putting Glover in a Spider-Man movie, which is where we got this amazing cameo. But comic book fans know the character Aaron Davis is far more than just a guy desperate to get his ice cream before it melts. He's the uncle of another version of Spider-Man named Miles Morales. Not only were we excited to see Glover on the big screen, but we can't wait to see the implications of his character existing in the MCU. We may not have gotten to see Glover suit up, but this cameo was the next best thing. Now, if you'll excuse us, we have to get started on our hashtag Please Don't Let Tom Holland Ever Leave the MCU Twitter campaign. The first step is making that hashtag shorter. The Winter Soldier. Donald Glover may have had his own Twitter campaign, but he isn't the only former Community actor to make an appearance in the Marvel Cinematic Universe. While working on the show, he made friends with producers Anthony and Joe Russo. When it came time to cast the movie Captain America: The Winter Soldier, the Russo brothers loved the idea of having their pal Danny Pudi make a cameo. According to the Russo brothers, they practically begged Pudi to make an appearance in the movie. So, in The Winter Soldier, he plays the role of S.H.I.E.L.D. Communications Officer Moore. It seems like the folks over at rival comic book company DC Comics are also fans of Community, and we mean, come on, who isn't? In addition to his MCU cameo, Pudi also made an appearance in the DC-based TV show Powerless. And instead of being mad about the DC and Marvel cameo crossover, get meta. According to the Russo brothers, they kind of love the idea of Abed from Community playing Agent Moore in The Winter Soldier. Does Community take place within the MCU? Or is this the best we'll ever get as far as a Community movie gets? Did Abed survive the decimation? This cameo really raises a lot more questions than answers. Guardians. Each one of the Guardians of the Galaxy is so awesome in their own way. It can be hard to pick a favorite. We think we can all relate to Rocket Raccoon's general irritation with people, even if we don't quite share his passion for prosthetic body parts. According to director James Gunn, Rocket is based on himself, and the lovable Groot is based on his beloved pet dog. Not only does Gunn have an adorable dog, but he has one with one of the best names we've ever heard, Dr. Wesley Von Spears. What's the dog got his doctorate in? We aren't sure, but we do know he made a cameo during the movie. While Star-Lord is on the lookout for the orb, he uses a gadget to see life that once existed on a ruined planet. It's brief, but you can see Dr. Wesley Von Spears himself running across the screen. Not to be outdone by his dog, well, more so since James Gunn isn't a doctor, Gunn also appears in the movie. But if you didn't recognize him at first glance, we'll give you a pass. He plays one of the maskless Sakaran, a race of aliens which Ronan tries to utilize in order to wage war with Xandar. We can't believe both Gunn and Dr. Wesley Von Spears were snubbed in the Best Supporting Actor category either. Stan Lee. Marvel comic book legend Stan Lee may be gone, but at least we can still enjoy his many great cameos. It's no secret that Stan Lee was a fan of the big screen, and he's immortalized in some of our favorite MCU movies. It's too hard to pick a favorite, so we'll show you Stan Lee's favorite movie moment featuring himself. Apparently, Lee loved his appearance in Avengers Age of Ultron, which shows him having a sip of Thor's drink. Watching Lee react to the Asgardian brew kind of makes us wonder what would have happened if he tried to pick up Mjolnir along with the rest of the Avengers. While Stan Lee's known for being enthusiastic about everything Marvel, there's actually a cameo starring himself that he doesn't like. It's not in the MCU, but it takes place in the 2002 Spider-Man movie. The reason it's Lee's least favorite: he thinks it was too short and didn't give him a chance to show off his acting ability. One of the few things we love more than a good cameo is a good fan theory, especially when it turns out to be true. Some fans have long thought that all of Stan Lee's cameos are connected, and he's always playing the same character. Marvel studio head Kevin Feige claims that, for once, this isn't a case of us overthinking things, and it was done intentionally. Korg. Although Thor is one of our favorite Avengers, we have to admit that for a while, his standalone movies left much to be desired. The first Thor was pretty good if you didn't compare it to movies like Captain America: The First Avenger or Iron Man. And then we have Thor: The Dark World, which was, well, let's just say a dark time for our Asgardian hero. Then, out of nowhere, we were gifted the epicness that is Thor: Ragnarok. Was it a gift from Odin himself, or maybe Loki masquerading as the Allfather? Nope, for this one, we have to thank director Taika Waititi. Not only did he create an amazing movie, but his cameo ended up totally stealing the show. Waititi himself played the character Korg, who may not have made enough pamphlets, but definitely made away with our hearts. Just where did Waititi get the idea to make a charming pile of sentient rocks? He claims to have been inspired by Polynesian nightclub bouncers who he met while in New Zealand. Waititi was apparently impressed by these gentle giants and decided to incorporate one into Ragnarok. Or maybe he misheard the title and thought it was supposed to include a literal rock. We may never know, but one thing we do know for sure is that we're glad Waititi stepped up to make one of the greatest directorial cameos in cinematic history. Voice acting. When you're watching an action-packed movie about superheroes, it can be hard to get past the impressive visual effects and seemingly non-stop on-screen action. But if you don't slow down and give a listen, you might miss out on some truly great voice acting cameos. Some pretty major celebrities have lent their voices to MCU movies over the years, including Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2, as well as Black Panther. If you're one of those people who can't stop chatting during a movie, you have our utter contempt. But we'll fill you in on what you missed out anyway. In the second Guardians of the Galaxy movie, you might have thought the voice of the Ravager's artificially intelligent Captain Mainframe sounded familiar. That's because it's voiced by pop star Miley Cyrus. Director James Gunn was inspired after hearing her on The Voice, but another voice on the Ravager's ship is provided by an old friend of his. Miley's quite the switch from the first movie, where the Ravager's navigator is voiced by musician Rob Zombie. Hey, what can we say? James Gunn has eclectic musical tastes. In Black Panther, the AI of the Wakandan ship used by Everett Ross is voiced by The Daily Show host Trevor Noah. If you want to keep up with cameos in the MCU, you really need to keep your eyes and ears peeled. Iron Man. Contrary to popular belief, the Guardians of the Galaxy franchise doesn't have a copyright on all good musicians. Okay, so the soundtracks are amazing, but let's not forget that Iron Man had some pretty amazing music too. We know this was way back at the beginning of the MCU, but think back to the insidious 10 Rings who captured Tony Stark. Notice anything familiar about this group member? It's none other than famous musician Tom Morello of Rage Against the Machine. Maybe you've heard of them. If you've seen the first 2 Iron Man movies, you've definitely heard the musical stylings of Morello on the soundtrack. It turns out that Morello is friendly with director Jon Favreau. The two of them had previously worked together on the set of Made. Not only did Favreau insist on hiring Robert Downey Jr. to portray Tony Stark, but he also wanted the audience to see Morello in addition to hearing his music. Another metal band featured in the movie is Black Sabbath, because, well, the name of the movie is Iron Man. Hopefully you already figured out that one on your own. Not only do we get to hear the song Iron Man, but we also spotted Tony Stark wearing a Black Sabbath shirt at one point. We definitely support including more metal music in the MCU whenever possible. Crossover. When it comes to Marvel movies, we think the more superheroes the better, which is why we love these fun crossover cameos. Apparently, having just one blonde muscular actor named Chris wasn't enough for Thor: The Dark World, because Chris Evans also made a surprise appearance in the movie. Seeing the real Captain America is always great, but seeing Chris Evans doing an impression of Loki doing an impression of his character was quite possibly even better. We also got to see Evans make appearances during Spider-Man: Homecoming, as he presented a variety of PSAs which played at Peter Parker's school. Considering that Captain America's a fugitive after Civil War, it's all the more amusing that the school is still showing these. And of course, we all know that S.H.I.E.L.D. is everywhere in the MCU, or at least they used to be. Who could forget the time Nick Fury showed up at the end of Iron Man to talk to Tony Stark about a little thing called the Avengers Initiative? There's no way that could ever go wrong. And then there's the very first Thor movie, which gave us a glimpse of Hawkeye for the first time in the MCU. Will Avengers Endgame be the first time we see Ronan? We can't wait to find out. There are so many great cameos in the MCU. We know it's hard to just pick a few. Which MCU moment stands out as your favorite surprise appearance? Tell us your cameo pick in the comment section below, and don't forget to subscribe to CBR for more MCU videos. Thanks for watching.